Mayor Huseman, I do not see Steve Douglas in the meeting.
Sir, next is Christy Douglas.
Christy, if you're in the meeting and can hit star 9 on your phone or use the raise hand function in Zoom. Mayor Huseman, I do not see Christy Douglas in the meeting.
Thank you. Next will be Mike Talcott.
Mike, if you're in the meeting, can hit star 9 on your phone or use the raise hand function in Zoom. Mayor Huseman, I do not see Mike in the meeting either.
Mayor Huseman, I do not see
Thank
Steve
you.
Douglas in the meeting.
And next will be Gavin Strickland. Sir.
Gavin, if you're in the meeting, you can hit star 9 on your phone or use the raise hand function in Zoom. Mayor Huseman, I do not see Gavin in the meeting either.
Thank you. Members of the public were also able to submit comments online and by mail. No written comments were received by the deadline. If anyone wishes to speak at a future council meeting, please check the meeting agenda and city website for information on how to register or submit written comments. This evening, we have 3 proclamations on the agenda. The first proclamation declares May 2020 as Nurses Month. Would like to have City Clerk read the proclamation.
Whereas registered nurses in the United States constitute our nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession meets the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings, and whereas a renewed emphasis on primary and preventative healthcare will require better utilization of all our nation's registered nursing resources, and whereas professional nursing is an indispensable component of the safety and quality of care of hospitalized patients, and whereas the demand for registered nursing services will be greater than ever because of the aging of the American population, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technologies, and the explosive growth of home healthcare services, and whereas more qualified registered nurses are needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this community, and whereas the cost-effective, safe, and high-quality healthcare services provided by registered nurses will be an increasingly important component of the United States healthcare delivery system in the future, and now therefore I, Benjamin Huseman, Mayor of Commerce City, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Nurses Month with the theme You Make a Difference, a nod to nurses' sheer numbers, their unparalleled impact during the pandemic in healthcare, and an open invitation to hashtag Thank a Nurse for enriching our lives and the world we live in.
Councilmember Madera.
Move to approve the proclamation declaring May 2021 as Nurses Month.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation declaring May 2021 as Nurses Month. Is there any discussion? And before we vote, would like to thank Councilmember Alan Thomas for bringing this forward as a request to have us do this, and also want to congratulate you on your successful petition to get a nurse's license plate in the state of Colorado.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
We will do a voice vote. All those in favor, please use your physical hands in the chat window so your vote can be counted. And that's going to pass 8-1 with 9-0 unanimously. Next is going to be a proclamation declaring May 2021 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I would like to request the city clerk to please read the proclamation.
Whereas all residents deserve to be treated with dignity, respect, compassion, and justice regardless of race, religion, color, national origin, sex, age, income, or economic status, political affiliation, military status, sexual orientation, or physical, mental, or sensory ability, and whereas the origin of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the United States dates back to 1978 when a joint congressional resolution established Asian Pacific American Heritage Week in early May to coincide with 2 important milestones in Asian Pacific American history: the arrival in the United States of the first Japanese immigrants on May 7, 1843, and contributions of Chinese workers to the building of the Transcontinental Railroad completed May 10, 1869, and whereas in 1990, the first Asian Pacific American Heritage Month was designated by presidential proclamation, and in 1992, Congress permanently designated May of each year as a month-long celebration that is now known as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and whereas additional Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month information and resources can be found at asianpacificheritage.gov, and Asian and Pacific Islander Americans continue to enrich the region's economy, culture, education, politics, arts, literature, science, and technological developments despite institutional and systemic injustice designed to prevent and limit these achievements and contributions. Now, therefore, I, Benjamin Huseman, Mayor of Commerce City, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and encourage residents of Commerce City to learn more about those of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander heritage and to celebrate this month with the appropriate programs and activities.
Councilmember Madera,
Move to approve the proclamation.
Councilmember Allen Thomas.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation declaring May 2021 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Is there any discussion? Seeing no request for discussion, we'll take a voice vote. Please use your visible hands in the chat window so your vote can be counted, and that'll pass unanimously. Our third and final proclamation declares May 16th to the 22nd, 2021 as Public Works Week. I'd like the city clerk to please read the proclamation.
Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as streets and bridges, drainage, public buildings, fleet, and solid waste and recycling management, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of this infrastructure as well as the associated planning, design, and construction are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works staff, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated public works department personnel is materially influenced by their attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Commerce City proclaim the week May 16th through the 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week in Commerce City. Be it further resolved that we call upon all citizens to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contribution which public works personnel make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Councilmember Hurst.
Yeah, motion to approve proclamation declaring May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as Public Works Week.
Councilmember Madera.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation declaring May 16th to the 22nd, 2021 as Public Works Week. Is there any discussion? I'd just like to thank everybody in the Public Works Department for everything that you do for the city. It's often a thankless job. You can never do it fast enough. You can never do it good enough. You can never do it right, but we do appreciate all the hard work that you do. We will do a voice vote. Please use physical hands in the chat window. And that is going to pass 8-1 with Councilmember Noble not voting yes. Next up, we have presentations. First up is a COVID-19 update. I'd like to invite City Attorney Robert Sheasley to provide an update on the recent changes to the health advisory orders.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. I just wanted to briefly update Council and anyone watching on what may be well known to you now that we had some significant events last week at the federal, state, and local level. The current status in Adams County is level clear under the state public health order. That is a test period for the next 90 days. It essentially level clear removes most, if not all, distancing and other requirements that previously applied. It's why we see the emergency ordinance tonight to remove the delivery fee because restaurants can return to 100% capacity. The state order and Tri-County's order all still encourage distancing and other measures to reduce the spread of the disease. Respect to face coverings, as many of you know, the Tri-County Health Department mask order expired over the weekend, meaning that the Adams County will default to state rules. And last Friday, the governor reduced requirements for mask wearing with a new executive order where non-vaccinated persons are encouraged to wear masks indoors where others not from their household are present. Fully vaccinated persons are not required to wear a mask. There are obviously still exceptions where it could apply. There are a few situations not really applicable to us, but for the benefit of anyone watching, preschool through grade 12 in schools, masks need to be worn there, and in childcare centers and services, again, unless the person is fully vaccinated. DMV staff at any kind of congregate care facility, like a nursing home or assisted living, in prisons and in jails, and then staff in healthcare settings, unless they are all fully vaccinated, unless the individuals are fully vaccinated. As you'll see, many entities around the country have reduced their face covering requirements. Some are still requiring masks for the protection of their employees and others, but some are encouraging their use or requiring it if individuals are not vaccinated but not checking and kind of relying on an honor system. Over the weekend, the city manager issued rules to maintain city facilities in the status quo because of the absence of other rules. And a lot of these things kind of came on us last week without much warning. I know that those are being evaluated very frequently to see about reducing those mask requirements, both for employees and members of the public in city facilities. So what they are now may be changed in the coming days. I'm happy to answer any questions about the current legal requirements around COVID-19. Otherwise, city manager has an update to provide as well.
Anybody on council have any questions for Mr. Sheasley regarding the changes? Seeing none, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank
Mr.
you. Thank you.
Tinklenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Because not all staff have had the opportunity to become fully vaccinated, just because of how fast things have moved in the last little while, I'm still requiring mask wearing for interactions with the public. And I'm doing that because I don't want to endanger them. So we'll also be taking gradual steps in reopening the facilities. We are evaluating the various reopening plans that the department submitted, and basically looking at bringing those together in a comprehensive manner so that we don't have disjointed operations that are not in sync with other departments. And then we've also seen where there's been interaction between police officers over the weekend and members of the public, where members of the public didn't want to speak to an officer if the officer wasn't wearing a mask. Again, so there's conflicting opinions among people out there. Some people don't want to wear masks. Some don't want to talk to you if you're not wearing a mask. So we're going to try to provide some uniformity and reduce the level of anxiety among people if we can. Just some general reminders. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment is offering free at-home rapid COVID-19 testing for both local food service and restaurant workers. And then also the American Rescue Plan created a $28.6 billion restaurant revitalization fund for restaurants. So those grants are available. And then also businesses can still apply until the end of this month for paycheck protection program loans or economic injury disaster loans or grants. So those are still available. Just wanted to remind members of the public about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that update. Does anyone on council have any questions for Mr. Tinklenberg regarding those comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next presentation, which is the 2021 Q1 work plan update. Would once again like to invite City Manager Roger Tinklenberg to introduce the presentation.
Just wanted to briefly introduce this before Ms. Blakeman provides the update for you. What we did, well, first of all, what I wanted to remind everyone is that the work plan does not cover everything that city staff does. You know, there's the routine operation of the city, day-to-day stuff that isn't even in the work plan. And then in addition to that, what's in the work plan, we're not reporting everything to you. You have the report that's available to you, but our overview will just pull out and focus in on certain highlights for you. So I just wanted to lay that groundwork before Ms. Blakeman provides the update. And then I'll stay on in case there's questions, so I can jump in and answer questions where Ms. Blakeman doesn't have the experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, so this is for the 2021 first quarter, as Roger has mentioned to you. We're just going to be looking at some of the accomplishments by staff. Next slide. Thank you. So this is the first goal is promoting a balanced and thriving city economy. What you're going to see us do tonight is we're going to go through each goal. You'll see it flash on the screen, and then the subsequent slides are going to be slides on the targets that we actually had. And just a highlight or two, as the city manager has stated, just a highlight or two on some of the things that we've done in order to meet those particular targets. Next slide, please. Again, more detailed information is in that Invisio report that was provided on Legistar. So the first target for that first goal is location of choice for primary employers. So we worked with 31 new prospects, and that had to do with like 9 retail, 15 primary employers, a headquarter operation, 3 existing companies that were doing expansions, and a couple of startups, and also 1 that was educational in nature. We also have the Shop Where I Live program, which supports small businesses. At this point, there's currently a platform of about 18 businesses that are on the listing, at least at the end of Q1. We're calling brokers and we're collecting listings of all of our commercial real estate to ensure that staff is knowledgeable about what the real estate opportunities are within our community. Meeting in person is going to be starting up soon as soon as we deem that it's safe to do. And then lastly on this target, we have some positive press out there by Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal. If you go out to the Invisio report, you will be able to see what the links are, and you can actually go out and take a look at those articles on your own and see what they say. Nice to have good press. Next slide, please. The second target is creating a sense of place. So this is outreach to developers on mixed use projects based on a retail plan recommendation. And in particular, we're looking at like Aberdeen, Cutler Farms, Murray Farms, Mile High Greyhound Park, are just a few examples. And then the comprehensive plan updates are in fact underway. Next slide, please. We will catalyze developments and identify key areas. Major redevelopment projects are remaining on track. Mile High Greyhound Park, the light rail station in Derby. And there are some new developments in early negotiation. And just a few examples are Reunion Center and the Victory Crossing. Next slide, please. Thank you. The fourth target is improving efficiency and effectiveness of development review process. We've been processing a record number of cases during Q1. They processed approximately 165 to 170 cases. Staff feels like their communication is improving greatly, but the timeliness seems to be slipping just a little bit because they're balancing such a variety of various cases, and that is creating a bit of a slowdown, and they're working on that. The second goal that we have for 2021 is promoting efficient and effective city government to improve levels of service. The first target is leveraging emerging technologies to enhance capabilities. So we have many new technology projects that will be starting. In Q1, for example, was the Bluetooth assisted listening system in chambers. Most of the new projects which are being planned for 2021 are going to happen in Q2 or later. And so, for example, would be the Civic Center conference room audio Visio refresh and licensing land use and permit software. I did want to note that the CRM project team did begin work in Q1, and they will be putting together their plan in order to replace that particular system going forward. Good progress is also being made on the existing IT systems. So for example, Bison Ridge and the Eagle Point audio visual system evaluation. And that's still in the planning stage, but they expect for that to be completed in Q2, at the end of Q2. And based on these evaluations, there will be budget requests that will be submitted for 2022. One in particular would be, for example, the HR online performance management system and the evaluation of the Snow Trooper platform. Examples of some expansion projects which are in progress are SharePoint expansion, Cartograph expansion, and the crime scene software upgrades. And that's which that aids the PD when working at a crime scene. The formal security assessment and cybersecurity awareness is well underway. We have completed many organizational trainings on this topic. They're actually assigned to employees. They are required to take that particular training. And IT has actually simulated some phishing attempts within the organization to see how the organization performs. And it sounds like we're doing just slightly better than what the average is after this round of training. So that's good news. And then the increase in technology online training system usage. It's a self-paced training classes that can be taken. And the rollout of Q2, or the online Microsoft 365 trainings, actually is set for second quarter, and they're happening right now in the month of May. Next slide, please. Thank you. A high-functioning city workforce is the second target and the second goal. And as Mr. Tinklenberg had pointed out, there's a new normal work environment that we are working on right now. Staff's developing various options to bring to the city manager, and from there he will work on what next steps may need to be. You're aware that we developed a veteran internship program. You had seen that presented here just recently to you. There's a needs assessment for performing evaluations and employee policies. Depending on the outcome of that needs assessment, there will most likely be an RFP that is put out in order to address that particular need. The HR process improvements are happening, and he is also streamlining the orientation program. So the HR processes are it's called Lean Sigma work that he's doing right now, taking a look at processes and determining how they function and where improvements might be able to be made. And the new hire orientation is actually going to include videos, which are going to be produced by our new videographer. So we're looking forward to that. And for training in 2021, the HR department did 22 classes. They're in things like communication, lean processing, diversity and inclusion, other sorts of management and employee related trainings. And as an FYI, the vacancy rate for Q1 ended at 8.6, and we're looking for that to be at below 9%. The third target is to provide responsive action to council identified priorities. We use Microsoft Planner, and that is a way for us to be able to track, and to allow for us to faster and fully respond to council action items. Next slide, please. The fourth is to act in a transparent and accountable manner. We are increasing information to the public in both English and Spanish. There are 8 press releases, 49 news items, 4 community workshops, and a forum that was actually done in Q1. And we had 143 Colorado Open Records Act requests that were processed. Securing a sustainable financial future is the fifth. The budget right now is a process that is ongoing. The CIPP 2022 process submissions were due in April. As a matter of fact, those just recently had closed out. And we are currently planning budget sessions in August and the annual retreat in September. You'll be getting a lot more information on those as we go. We're expecting a clean opinion on our audit. Right now, Eide Bailey, the auditors, they are on site. They've been on site for quite some time now and will be there through June 7. And we anticipate presenting those findings to you at a study session in the end of June. And with tax compliance awareness, Tax Division is working to increase tax compliance awareness by providing taxpayers with educational types of opportunities. they have enhanced online resources and tools, or they're directly engaging those particular licensed businesses. At the end of Q1, there were 24 audit engagements that were completed and assessed, and there are 75 audits currently in process, and only 3 audits were postponed due to COVID. There was a 45% decrease in delinquent tax filings that was taken from 707 down to 390. The third goal is developing and maintaining the public infrastructure to improve community appearance and encourage continued development. The first target is developing educational infrastructure. And right now it looks like there are promising discussions going on with Adams 14 on some future collaborative opportunities, possible culinary programs, or proposed innovation centers at various locations within the city. More to come on that. It's early stages for that. The second target is to improve physical infrastructure. The Derby solar lighting project is moving forward with some significant interagency cooperation. And South Adams County Water and Sewer met with community development in January through March to review projects and issues. And they're putting together they have put together a 5-year CIPP for both Commerce City and Southwest Adams County. South Adams County Water and Sewer at the January 21 meeting. Next slide, thank you. The third target is engineering a safe built environment. So Public Works has done several assessments on bridges and core and city signal posts that resulted in the Highway Safety Improvement Program. There are various grants that have been awarded. They are, some of them are the Colorado Boulevard improvements, additional money for US 85 and 120th Avenue interchange, and then also additional money for the 88th Avenue improvements. Staff's working with community relations and homeowners associations to provide community reminders and announcements for upcoming seasonal and/or high violation types, for example, weeds, overhanging branches, since inspection codes and enforcement efforts have been limited to planning and outreach that is not tightly in person, and that's due to the health restrictions that we have had. Next slide, please. The fourth target is to complete all approved phases of CIPP on time, in budget, and to standard. We have created a draft project management training program to streamline operations, and staff anticipates that that training is going to be conducted in Q3 or Q4 of this year. So more to come on that in the future. Next slide, please. This is our fourth goal, to promote resident health, safety, and education. The first target is to create aesthetically pleasing neighborhoods. The parking trailer ordinance is passed, and the police department and community relations have begun looking at enforcement, and of course they've been doing public outreach as it pertains to that particular issue. Code enforcement's has been made 663 active contacts, and that's to help achieve voluntary code compliance. And the Housing Authority has administered yesterday, as a matter of fact, 135 house choice vouchers, which is rent subsidies for low to moderate income families. And that program is expected to grow quite a bit within this next year. The second target is to provide recreational opportunities. Some of these program expansions have been limited due to COVID, but there are some planning that is underway. A few examples include the opening of the Paradise Island Pool over Memorial Day weekend, and a neighborhood outreach events combined with Cultural Council's summer concert series in July and August. PRG has applied for over $1 million in grants, and some examples of these grants are the Adams County Open Space submission for Monaco Park renovation at $960,000. That's pending approval relatively closely now at the end of May. And CBDG submission for outdoor fit court at $70,000. We also anticipate pending approval here relatively soon as well. So more to come on those as well. Target 4.3 is safeguarding residential health and well-being. The oil and gas LDC land development code updates have been adopted. The Keep Commerce City Clean Interdepartmental Working Group has developed many solutions. They are conducting bi-weekly group meetings and individual small group meetings with community developments, park recreation and golf, community relations, economic development, and public works. They are developing a campaign that they anticipate being executed in Q3 and Q4 of this year. Also, the community navigator for homelessness outreach has been hired. The outreach has been hired. Next slide, please. The fourth target is enhancing personal safety. PD has assessed their ability to accurately report, investigate, and respond to domestic violence. They have identified several areas in which they will be pulling together for improvements. And they're also working on decreasing auto thefts, but that's an uphill battle. Auto thefts are up 164% as opposed to last year due to mostly the inability to hold offenders accountable. They elude police or the offenders fail to yield to the police. The department's going to therefore be focusing more of their efforts on intelligence-based investigations and community education to have a more positive impact in this category of crime. Next slide, please. The fifth target is to enhance community safety. There's been a decrease in priority 0 and 1 call response times, and this is done through resource allocation and monitoring calls for those repeat offenders, as well as the community policing efforts that PD has been doing. During the pandemic, the PD held several engagement events for high-profile incidents that occurred within the community, and the area commanders have been using an electronic platform to host virtual community meetings and to keep residents engaged and informed. So next slide, please. And the fifth goal, improving community involvement and trust. The first target is to increase civic pride. There have been in-person events canceled this year, of course, due to COVID. But as you heard a little earlier, they're planning for Q2, Q3, and on events. Those are underway. And we got approval for hiring a cultural master plan consultant last year. And the RFP for that is anticipated to go out at the end of Q2. Next slide, please. The second target is to improve citizen interaction. The city continues to maintain an active web and social media presence. Basically, the city drives media engagement rates by posting creative and effective content to the city's websites, web pages, social media channels to increase the number of daily visitors and subscribers to entice them in. At the end of Q1, the city's Facebook page reached an average of 5,805 users per day and had 7,608 followers, and a total of 29,338 people engaged in the Facebook page, which means that they liked, they commented, or they shared a specific post. And we had 31,778 users that visited the city's website in Q1. Next slide. And the third target is an inclusive community. The Americans with Disabilities Act team has reconnected. They did not meet very much in 2020. They have begun getting back together. That's in Q2, however, and they're prioritizing on items that they got from what was called the Meeting the Challenge audit, and that was completed back in 2019, which gave us various places that we could look at for improving within the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the Diversity and Inclusion Commission was created and met for the first time. They do meet on the last Wednesdays of every month. They're in that forming phase right now. They have several really great ideas for future activities. They're working with internal staff, and they're also meeting with other established DEI groups in the area so that they can see what has been successful for them. We've also had live Spanish interpretations offered at 21 city meetings. And there's an average of about 2 Spanish participants per meeting. It's an average. And the last slide, please. And the fourth target is to improve citizen participation. The charter amendment consensus for the city council representation is to be placed on the 2023 ballot. The video production specialist was hired. He is bilingual, and we're very much looking forward to what it is he will be bringing to the organization. And at least through the end of Q1, the city council meetings continued to be in a virtual environment. The city did post 5 videos in Q1 and a combined total views of 9,150. That is what I have for you as a quick update for tonight. Again, there's a lot of additional information out there in Invisio. But at this point, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them, Roger or myself.
Anybody on council have any questions for the Q1 work plan update? Councilmember Alan Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Kathy, for giving that presentation. I just had one like on the, what other redevelopment projects are happening on the light rail right now currently?
So the current status is that Jason Rogers has been meeting with Adams County staff in regards to a cooperative effort between Adams County and the city. And we also are working on a request for proposal to bring on a company to do the blight study and identify basically the boundaries of a redevelopment area there. So you know, that's what city staff is working on. I know that there's also a developer who is, well, there's several developers who put in proposals for the former also school site. And I think, Jason can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the school district has decided to go with one particular developer, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Okay, so the one on 70th and Colorado Boulevard, is that one complete then?
When you say one, are you talking about?
Yeah, the light rail. I mean, that one is totally finished, right? The one on 70th Avenue and Colorado Boulevard. That light rail.
The station itself is finished, yes, but there's a lot of ground around it that you know, could be redeveloped.
Okay, and then when you said the area with the blight station, is that still the location right there on 48th and Forest?
Well, that's a different one, yes, and we'll be looking at that one as well. But in regards to the RTD station area, there was an interest, I would say a couple of years back from Adams County about doing a joint redevelopment area in that area around the RTD station. And so we're following up on that, and they continue to be interested in doing a cooperative redevelopment area there.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I don't know if staff noticed too, and a lot of people clicked on the link, but the Bloomberg website that was, you know, if you go to that link, it isn't working. So if that can be addressed as well, that Bloomberg site doesn't work when I clicked on the link. Yeah, but
Thank you. We'll get you another one. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And Roger, if I may, Councilwoman, as I was being brought over, well, first and foremost, good evening, Council. In regards to the statement Roger is making about Alsop, he is correct. The Adams 14 has engaged a developer on taking over the Alsop property. They are currently working through contractual negotiations on the sale of that property. Anticipate more information to be had as it relates to the finalization of that agreement, I would say by the end of this month. As it relates to the discussion of creating or forming a urban renewal area in and around the RTD light rail station, Roger is also correct. We have been having ongoing conversations with the county since the beginning of the new year. They have expressed an interest and a desire to work with the city on the formation of that urban renewal area, and also looking at timing for the implementation of said area as well. So,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff regarding the Q1 update? Do have one question back on the economic development front. About a month ago, we had the meeting with economic development, you, Mr. Tinklenberg, and Ms. Press. And she had indicated that with our anemic shopping opportunities here in Commerce City, we should be looking at a buy purchase online campaign. Has any work started on that campaign from the Economic Development Office?
I would have to defer to Michelle. She and I have not discussed that since then, but I'm sure she took it to heart. I'm just not familiar with a recent update on that. Well, I tell you what, I'll follow up on that and report back to you next week.
Okay, thank you very much. And seeing no other requests for comments or questions, we will move on the next agenda item, which is our consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. They are presented to council for a single motion and vote. Any member of council may ask to remove a specific item for further discussion and a separate vote. Tonight, there are 8 items listed under the consent agenda. Does anyone on council wish to remove an item off the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion regarding the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember Madera.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the city clerk please read the titles and take a roll call vote?
Minutes of April 19, 2021. Minutes of May 3rd, 2021. Ordinance Z-945-17-19-21, an ordinance approving the amendment of the Nexus North at DIA PUD zone document to incorporate 12 additional acres of adjacent property located at the northwest corner of Telluride Road and East 84th Avenue into the PUD zone district in Commerce City, Colorado. Ordinance 2329, an ordinance authorizing the lease of equipment and the execution by the city of a master lease agreement with All Copy Products, Inc., a rental agreement with Franco Type Postalia, DBA FP Mailing Solutions, Inc., and related documents, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute agreements, setting forth parameters and restrictions, and providing for other related matters. Resolution 2021-33, resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement between Adams County and the City of Commerce City for the Home Investment Partnerships Program Consortium for program years 2022, 2023, and 2024. Resolution 2021-36, resolution amending the directory of city fees and charges to modify administrative hearing docket fee. Resolution 2021-40, resolution modifying the Parks, Recreation, and Golf Advisory Committee. Resolution 2021-41, a resolution authorizing award of contract for replacement of East 112th Avenue Bridge over Fulton Dish to Jalisco International Incorporated. Councilmember Madera.
Yes.
Councilmember Alan Thomas.
Yes.
Councilmember Noble.
Yes.
Councilmember Guardiola.
Yes.
Councilmember Hurst.
Yes.
Councilmember Grimes.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
Yes.
Mayor Huseman.
Yes.
Passes unanimously 9-0.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda are ordinances on first reading. We have ordinance 2330, repealing ordinances on delivery service fees. I'd like to invite Robert Sheasley, city attorney, to introduce the item.
Hello again. As I mentioned earlier, this ordinance is on the agenda tonight because of Tri-County Health's decision to move into level clear and not extend the capacity restrictions on restaurants. Further, there's a potential during the 90-day period they could go back, but currently restaurants are able to operate at 100% capacity without distancing requirements. They'd been able to go to 100% capacity a little while ago, but the distancing requirements have gone away. And so the ordinance is enacting the third-party food delivery fee restrictions required me to bring back an emergency ordinance when that was the case. And so that is why that has been added to the agenda tonight. Council could pass this or could allow it to expire naturally on July 31st, or could extend this and make it permanent. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I know that some outreach was done to restaurants in the community, I believe, through economic development. I don't believe that I've not heard of reports back on that at this point. But Ms. Claymore may have more information available as to whether this was a useful tool or the repeal of it would cause a problem for restaurants in the area.
Thank you, Robert. This is Michelle, and good evening, Council. We did send out some information about this measure moving forward tonight and asked if any of our restaurant owners had any concerns about it being repealed to let us know, and we did not hear back from anybody.
Does anybody on council have any questions for staff regarding this ordinance? Councilmember Hurst.
I'm not sure if anybody can answer this directly, but I believe the county's expired over the weekend as well. They had this almost identical ordinance. And with its expiration, I think it does leave some businesses in a weird situation where literally the business across the street or couple doors down could have a different fee structure than our businesses. And so I just want to make sure that we're trying to eliminate that confusion, keep everybody on a level playing ground.
Yes, sir. That's my understanding as well, that their fee has expired. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Grimes.
No question. I'd just like to move to introduce and approve on final reading ordinance 2330 as an emergency ordinance.
Councilmember Alan Thomas.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to introduce and approve by council as seated and approve on first reading ordinance 2330. Is there any discussion? Seeing no request for discussion, will the clerk please read the title and take a roll call vote?
And Mayor, may I just, the way the motion was read, I just want to clarify it's on final reading, not first, even though it's first and final as an emergency ordinance, just so everyone knows. Thank you.
Ordinance 2330, an emergency ordinance repealing Ordinance 2300 and Ordinance 2320 regarding temporary restrictions on fees that can be charged for third-party food delivery services in the city of Commerce City, Colorado. Councilmember Madera,
Yes.
Councilmember Alan Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Noble,
Yes.
Councilmember Guardiola,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurst,
Yes.
Councilmember Grimes,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank,
Yes.
Mayor Huseman.
Yes.
Passes unanimously 9-0.
Thank you. Next up, we have administrative council business per council policy. Except for emergency or unforeseen items, council members are encouraged to submit administrative business items by the Tuesday before the meeting with another council member's endorsement. This week, 2 items were submitted by Councilmember Noble. The first is a request for a study session on homelessness. Councilmember Noble, would you like to introduce your request?
Yes, I would. I had suggested this, but I have had a conversation now with Carol and Keith, and this is on their schedule and will be a study session for us in the month of July. So I would like to make the motion, but table it, if that makes sense. I would like to make a motion for a study session on homelessness in Commerce City.
I have a motion to have a study session on homelessness in Commerce City. Councilmember Guardiola.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
And now I would like to table the motion because we don't need to vote on
Okay,
it at this time.
Next, we have a request for a study session for Derby area update in history. Councilmember Noble, would you like to introduce your item?
Mayor,
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. I believe a motion to table is required then if we wanted to do that, or withdraw the motion and make it at a future time. Tabling a motion would just put it on. Are you looking to postpone it indefinitely, or do you actually want to vote it at some point in the future?
You know, just have it out there if we need it. I see no reason to do so, but I can withdraw it.
Okay.
That would be fine too. I can withdraw it if Councilmember Guardiola is okay with that. I apologize for messing
I'm
with
fine with it.
parliamentary procedure.
Motion and second are both withdrawn. Moving on to the request for the Derby area and update on history on that. Councilmember Noble.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very interested in hearing more about the Derby comprehensive plan that was developed about 10 years ago. We have been voting on things rather piecemeal, and I know that there's so many people who have questions about unity between the North and the South, and what is it that we can do for the Derby area and a better understanding of what's going on. And I would like to see a study session on the topic of Derby and its history, and also an update on the Derby plan, what we've accomplished, what the challenges are, what the obstacles are, basically a SWOT. So my motion is for the Derby plan to be a topic at an upcoming study session, but not on May 24th.
Motion is to have a study session on the Derby area history and update at a future study session other than May 24th. Is there a second? Councilmember Alan Thomas.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Tinklenberg.
I have a question. Do you want that in city council study session, or would it be more appropriate maybe for the Urban Renewal Authority board meeting?
In a study session for the city council so that all of us are on the same page, please.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. Please use your physical hands in the chat window so your vote can be counted. That is going to pass unanimously 9-0. Do any other members of council have administrative business of an emergency or unforeseen nature? Councilmember Grimes.
Thank you, Mayor. Given the updates to Tri-County's orders and the state's orders in the late part of last week and over the weekend related to being in level clear and lifting statewide mask mandates, I'd like to ask council to consider directing or requesting rather that Mr. Tinklenberg recommend us coming back to in-person meetings. And I say it that way because I believe, and Robert helped me with this, but I believe that Mr. Tinklenberg carries the authority to make that decision because of how the ordinance is structured related to virtual meetings.
That's correct. Ordinance 2291, your remote meetings occur during a declared disaster or emergency, which continues to exist here. By direction from the chief executive.
Thank you.
Either the city manager or in certain circumstances, the mayor.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
I'm happy to make that motion. Would we have discussion now or later?
Motion, second, then discussion, then vote.
Thank you. Then I would motion to request that Mr. Tinklenberg bring city council back to in-person meetings.
Councilmember Noble.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my hand up for another topic sorry.
I have a motion to direct the city manager to reinstate in-person meetings. Is there a second? Councilmember Hurst.
Yeah, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I would actually like to see this go under our administrative council items following our council policies, because I would like to have some time to think about this. And I also feel like our staff, I mean, they're still working on plans to bring city staff back. And I think to try to turn around and say, we're going to go back to in-person meetings when our staff isn't even on staff, or I'm sorry, in the Civic Center full-time. I'm not want to do this, and I would want to follow our administrative council policy and, you know, put this on the agenda for 2 weeks.
Councilmember Alan Thomas.
Yes, thank you. And in my professional opinion, too, especially being a family nurse practitioner, I think, you know, we just gave direction to our city manager, and then he's informed us that a lot of the city staff hasn't even been vaccinated. So how can we go running into council chambers as well? So I just think it's way too soon and we're moving way too fast.
Councilmember Madera.
I just had a question for staff and maybe for the city manager on this. Where are we on that transition to going to in-person? Because I know we've been discussing it and talking about it for a little bit now.
Well, we're moving gradually in that direction. What I anticipate doing is adding a day a week that we're open, and doing that over the next couple of weeks. But again, I haven't seen all of the departmental plans to get a sense of what they think is possible. So I'm sort of, in transition here at this point as well. I don't have a definitive opinion on, how fast we should move and exactly where we should go next.
So do you think if we were to put this on administrative business for the meeting a couple weeks from now, would that give you enough time to, kind of come back and develop more of a better plan? Because I know this has been moving pretty quick, and even at my place of work, we said one thing on Tuesday, and then new guidance comes out on Friday, so everything kind of changed real quick.
Right. Yeah, that's been the frustration that I've had with all of this. This announcement out of the CDC came rather abruptly, and that's been one of the problems all along through the pandemic. We have health guidelines that are in place, and then the day before they expire, somebody makes a decision to either extend them or change them, and it doesn't allow really adequate planning ahead of time. To answer your question directly, that certainly would give us more time to put together a little better plan. So I'm certainly open to, giving it 2 more weeks in order to have that direction from council.
Councilmember Guardiola.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of wanted to see, I don't want to go before staff is not ready and put extra work on them. So I would definitely want to revisit it in 2 weeks at our next council meeting. I think it's getting there, but I just don't want to put more work on staff or go before them. So I would be in favor of when you come back with that report and see where we're at. One thing I would ask is if you could have some timelines for us, so we're not just saying another 2 weeks, because I think a lot of us are eager to go back. So.
Councilmember Hurst.
Yeah, so I talked to Councilwoman Grimes this week, and I think, and Councilwoman Grimes, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think the motion I understood a little bit differently when we spoke to speak. What I heard throughout the meeting today is that the city is on their way making plans towards coming back to in-person. I don't think, at least with me seconding it, I didn't expect an unprepared reopening. I really think what I was suggesting when I was seconding is the support for Roger to continue down that direction, and really, put the effort into making and approving those plans. But if it's 4 weeks from now, in a month from now, when we're back in meeting, and there's reason behind that, or there's reason behind making it 6 weeks from now, I'm more than willing to listen. I just wanted to give Roger the support for kind of moving in that direction, was my opinion behind seconding that.
Councilmember Guardiola.
have my hand up. I apologize.
Councilmember Grimes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Councilmember Hurst, that's really the intended direction of the motion. It's kind of hard to state that exactly, but giving Roger the direction to move in the direction of bringing us back to in-person meetings is really the intent, and to start it now rather than in 2 weeks, so that we're not 2 more weeks out. And then I would also just remind council that we have a fifth Monday this month, so that'll push us out an additional week to our next council meetings. So I just want to make sure that we are working towards that starting now instead of in what will actually be 3 weeks when we get to our next council meeting.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. Please use physical hands in the chat window to have your vote counted. And motion fails 3-6. Any other administrative council business that is of an emergency or unforeseen nature? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Tinklenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Several items in terms of city manager's office, a couple updates. I think you all knew that I had selected and appointed Kathy Blakeman as deputy city manager for the shared services, which is the internal side. Today, had the opportunity to review applications and selected Jason Rogers for the external deputy city manager. So for community services, so I appointed him and he accepted that position. So congratulations to him. Happy to have the 2 deputy positions filled. Senator Hickenlooper sent out a form that we can now use to request earmarks from his office. So we'll be taking a look at that and conferring with council on that and get that back to him as well. Staff also had additional meetings with Triangle Logistics, the CA Ventures firm. And that's for that 48th and Forest redevelopment site. And we weren't sure if we were going to be able to bring this back to you already on May 24, but given the progress that was made at the last meeting, we believe that that will now be possible to bring that back to you at our next meeting. And then we also had a meeting with the project manager, Mark Hammer. He's a nephew of Dave Hammer, regarding the Hammer property, and made additional progress on coming to agreement on annexation and development issues. So making progress there. And then on the hotel for the Mile High Greyhound Park redevelopment site, we have 2 developers remaining interested in the site. And so council had discussed this, and I had suggested that we not do a formal RFP, but after we thought about this some more and discussed it further, we decided to go with a streamlined RFP, which we will be getting out here shortly to see if there's any other interest in that site and see if there's any other developers who may be interested. And then as I mentioned earlier, the staff has started working on a proposal to study and update our impact fees, and that will be submitted to councils for your consideration as part of the 2022 budget process. And then city clerk, just a reminder again that the election page is now up and active on the city's website, and that provides information about the election calendar, candidate information, and the initiative petition information. And then community development. In terms of residential permits that have been issued, they have issued over 770 residential unit permits, and that's through the end of April. That compares to 958 issued for the entire year of 2020. And 2020 was over 2021. So So, or over 2019, I mean, sorry. And so a lot of residential activity going on. And we anticipate well over 1,000 for the year then. In terms of emergency rental assistance, $162,000 has been obligated to the end of last week. Parks, Recreation, Golf, I had reported on this previously, but just a reminder, Paradise Island Pool will open on Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend, I'm sorry, actually opens on Saturday, the 29th. And then reservations are required for use of that. Memorial Day itself, there's a ceremony planned for City Council at Veterans Memorial Park. And then 4th of July, the fireworks are planned at the stadium, and there'll be activities for council inside the stadium. The normal family activities, part of 4th Fest outside of the stadium, will not be occurring. There was not time after things opened up to get that planned, so that won't occur this year. But the fireworks are going on. And then Public Works, I mentioned this before, but just as a reminder, the 112th Avenue Bridge over Fulton Ditch has to wait until the migratory birds that are nesting below the bridge are finished nesting, then it can proceed. That's it for my update tonight. Thank you.
Anybody on council have any questions for Mr. Tinkenberg regarding his update? Councilmember Noble, your hand is up, but I believe that's for a report.
My hand has been up, Mr. Mayor, because I had a topic that has been dangling out there since Councilmember Grimes' motion. So I will lower my hand. I'm sort of stuck tonight operating off of a telephone because of internet service problems. So I'll lower my hand. I don't have a question for Mr. Tinglenberg.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Why are we still requiring reservations at Paradise Park if we're open? We're clear.
That's an excellent question. We'll discuss that this coming week as well. I think it was, well, I know it was originally set up to limit capacity. So we'll have to discuss in terms of the new order that's come out.
Okay, can you do that and let us know?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Tingelberg? Seeing none, Mr. Cheesley.
I don't have anything to report. I'm looking forward to having some time back in the office in the next couple of weeks and hopefully seeing some of you or all of you in person at some point individually. Thank you.
Any other council members wish to make a report? Councilmember Grimes.
Thank you, Mayor. Had a chamber meeting last week and just wanted to let everybody know that there's a city visitors guide that was published in conjunction with this, or in partnership with the city. I just sent the link for that to Roger and asked that he share it with council. That is all.
Thank you. Any other council members wish to make a report? Councilmember Madera.
Yeah, at the last meeting, I brought up that I was asked to serve on the RAC, and just wanted to let everyone know that I've since been appointed to that board.
Congratulations on that. Councilmember Noble.
Thank you very much. I have 4 things. My first question is a question, I don't know if it should have been under administrative council business, but it is regarding road surfaces. And a constituent has gotten back to me again with issues regarding 96th Street, in particular that the pavement is breaking up again. Now, while Public Works got back to us about that and that they would be resurfacing, his question is, what is it that the city does and what process do they use that requires regular repaving of cracked areas? Why does it crack so often around the city? And so that's a question. That's the first of my 4.
Sorry, I was prepared to write down the other three. So it depends on the subsurface conditions. Sometimes the road base deteriorates over time due to extra water. Surplus water that's underneath it. So it depends on soil conditions. It depends on drainage. I've also seen where there may be a batch of asphalt that just isn't good quality and it breaks down faster than normal. So there can be a number of factors that cause that deterioration. Does that answer your question satisfactorily?
I guess so. So on 96, this is all of the new repaving that was done. And I think he's just surprised that it's happening so quickly, that it's already cracked, even though it was just in recent months that entire strip was repaved. So I wanted to see if there was some way I could address it for him.
What's the location where the deterioration is occurring?
I'll have to get that to you later, Mr. Singleberg. I don't know his exact address. Okay, thank you very much. And the rest of them are just reports, so you don't have to answer any questions. Also, I just wanted to let everyone know that I participated in the airport coordinating committee last week, along with the mayor and attorney Robert Sheasley.
Ma'am, you're breaking up.
While we wait for Councilmember Noble's signal to be restored, Councilmember Hurst, would you like to go, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry, I don't want. You're on mute. No, Councilwoman Noble, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm on mute. All right. Now I'll try again. I'm sorry, I have gone from internet, which has failed on me, and gone now to cellular, which doesn't seem to be working either, but we're getting pounding rain in my neighborhood along with a lot of lightning. So I think there's a lot of electricity in the area that's interrupting anyway. So I mentioned the airport coordinating committee. I hope you heard that. And then also the senior commission had went through the comprehensive plan workshop. And were able to provide their opinions. And in addition, they began work on their efforts with the communications department about coming up with a new look, if you will, and interface for seniors and others so that it's more user-friendly and also more visual for seniors. And finally, there's a new federal program for broadband benefits. I know a lot of folks might qualify for this because it's not strictly income. It's also whether you lost your position or had a loss of income during COVID. It's whether you're Pell Grant students, whether you get free school lunches. There's all sort of $50 a month benefit, Commission, towards your broadband subscription. In addition, they'll give you a one-time donation of $100 that you can apply towards any sort of equipment. And you write to get emergencybroadband.org to apply. You apply on getemergencybroadband.org, and somehow we need to do something about our broadband in Commerce City so I don't have these problems in the future. But thank you everyone for your patience tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurst.
Yes, thank you. this week we had, last Tuesday, we had cultural council. And the one thing I'd like to point out is that we have a flyer coming out very soon that will have all of the information about Concert in the Park. And just to touch on what Ms. Blakeman said earlier, we are combining with the city's historical outreach events, and we're making them into, or combining those into the 4 Concert and Park series this year. So just wanted to mention that, have everybody keep for a lookout. And there was also discussions about and more work being done by Councilman Gordiola and a subgroup for Commerce City Eats, which will be later this year.
Thank you. And any other council members? Councilmember Grimes?
I just had a question about your report, Councilmember Hurst, related to the concert series. I posted about the Cultural Council looking for food trucks. I posted that to some of my pages, and I've had people reach out and ask if they're interested, what do they do? Can I give the information to either you or Councilman Guardiola, or should they call you guys? How does that work?
It's Daniela. Her information's on that flyer, Daniela Villarreal. She's the one that set it all up.
Just have them call her.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other reports? Seeing none. Last week, as Councilmember Noble said, I participated on the airport coordinating committee meeting. Tuesday, I met with the new CEO of United Power for lunch, had a good conversation with him. In addition, Wednesday afternoon, participated in the I-270 Regional Advisory Committee. Although CDOT is a year away from finalizing the environmental study, they are pushing for managed lanes, which are basically toll lanes, Lexus lanes, whatever you wish to call them, for the 270 project. So even though they haven't completed the environmental study, they've identified that as their primary decision that they want to push, and that will be going forward in the environmental study. They are going to do a open house type event in June where they're going to invite the community to come in. They tried very hard to break their arm by patting themselves on the back for how upfront and open they're being with everybody on this decision to include managed lanes on this project. So more to follow on that whenever that is scheduled. There being no other business for this, we will adjourn from the council meeting and we will call the NIGID meeting to order. I would like to ask the secretary to call the roll.
Chair Huseman.
Present.
Vice Chair Frank.
Present.
Board Member Madera.
Present.
Board Member Alan Thomas.
Present.
Board Member Noble.
Present.
Board Member Wardiola.
Present.
Board Member Hurst.
Present.
Board Member Grimes.
Present.
Board Member Smith.
Present.
Chair Huseman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're looking for a motion regarding the NIGID meeting minutes. Mayor Pro Tem, or excuse me, Vice Chair Frank.
Motion to approve the minutes of the NIGID meeting of December 21st, 2020 and March 15th, 2021.
Board Member Madera.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the NIGID meetings of December 21st, 2020 and March 15th, 2021. Is there any discussion? Seeing no request for discussion, we'll do a voice vote. Please use your physical hands in the chat window so your vote can be counted. And that is going to pass unanimously. Next, we have a public hearing. It is NIGID 178-21 for inclusion of lands to the Northern Infrastructure General Improvement District. Tonight's public hearing will be an inclusion of land to the Northern Infrastructure General Improvement District, generally described as the northeast corner of East 104th Avenue and Joliet Street. I will remind the board to use the public hearing only to ask questions, but not to express opinions or indicate how you will vote. Board members are not to provide testimony if you wish to participate in the decision. You should also rely only on facts developed in this hearing and in the record and apply those facts to the criteria in the state statute. This time I will open the meeting, open the hearing, and invite Jennifer Jones, Principal Planner, to make the presentation.
Good evening, board. Dylan, if you would bring up the presentation, please. Perfect, thank you. I'll be presenting NIGID 17821 to you tonight. As mentioned, it is at the northeast corner of 104th Avenue and Joliet Street. Next slide, please. So the subject property is shown on the vicinity map included on this slide. It has I-2 zoning. It is already included in the city. It is a little over 90 acres. It's currently undeveloped. As you can see on the vicinity map, it currently has the Burlington ditch running through the middle. There are plans for that to be relocated. So the entire site is included in the inclusion application tonight. There are 5 warehouse buildings proposed for this site, totaling a little over 1 million square feet. And there is a subdivision plat as well as development plan currently under administrative review in case S785 and D740. Next slide, please. Staff does recommend that the NIGID board approve the ordinance to allow for the inclusion of the petition into the Commerce City Northern Range Infrastructure General Improvement District. The applicant has met all of the requirements for inclusion. Staff is available for any questions, and I believe the applicant is with us, although I can't confirm if they are currently on the line.
Anybody on the board have any questions for staff regarding this item? Board Member Madera.
Where would the ditch be relocated to?
It's being relocated to the eastern side of the site, and then we'll go across the northern portion of the site to make the site usable without that bisecting it.
Okay, and then is that residential on the east side there?
It is to the east of this site.
Yeah.
Correct. So the O'Brien Canal is directly east of the site, and further east is zoned PUD, and it is a mixed use designation. But yes, there is existing residential.
And so will there be a buffer between the 2 uses?
So there is the O'Brien Canal itself. There will be the relocated ditch, and there will be landscape buffers, etc., as required by the LDC. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff from the board? Seeing none, I do have one question. Do we know an approximation of what the value of the land within that area that is said to be included into the NIGID will be?
That is not a value that I am aware of at this moment. I do not have that value, no.
Thank you, Mayor. Good question. If I may just further kind of dig into your question deeper, what specifically information are you looking for as it relates to the assessed value of the land?
When this project is built out, what is the assessed value going to be of the project?
That's a good question. I think we'd have to touch base with obviously the assessor's office. I think what Mr. Nelson, who is from Trammell Crow, can provide you to the actual value of the property, which then typically what we've seen from the county, once again, this is just making a broad assumption without speaking to them. They then take a certain percentage of that actual value to determine the assessed value for that property. And I believe that assessed value ranges depending upon the use somewhere between 27 to 29% for industrial development. But we would have to confirm that with the county at future time and date, sir.
Sure, non-residential property is assessed at an assessment rate of 29%. So what I'm trying to determine, what is the projected value here that is going to lead us to? I mean, we should have some kind of ballpark. Are we getting 15 warehouses here that are going to be worth $1 million a piece? And we have a projected value of 15. Where are we at ballpark? I don't need an exact. I just would like to have a ballpark estimation.
Appreciate that, sir. I would actually put that to Taylor to take the actual value of his project, to which then we could determine high level what that assessed value could be.
Thank you, Council. This is Taylor Nelson with Trammell Crow, the developer for the project. The physical improvements themselves, we're looking probably at around a 30, let's probably call it $32 a square foot. So if we looked at that $1.17 million times that 32, that'd be about $37 million that we're looking at just for physical improvements of just the warehouse and the site improvements going along with that. That number can increase when you're putting in the building values, when you put in potential tenants. Obviously, we don't know what tenants are going to be going into their value and their tenant improvements that go into there are not incorporated into there, so that number will increase.
Thank you. That's exactly the information that I was looking for. I appreciate that. Councilmember Noble.
What, if any, impact will this have on current annual payments that the residents of Commerce City make to the NIGUD?
Council member, that actually is in your hands as the board in terms of what mill levy you certify for the coming year. So we'll be looking at the overall assessed value as we get into the budget and determine what can we do with the mill levy for the whole area of the Northern Infrastructure General Improvement District.
Do these warehouses add a cost or not?
No, on the contrary, they benefit the whole General Improvement District by providing revenue.
And are there items built into it regarding traffic and so forth? This whole area, 104th, Joliet, Havana, etc., is multiple warehouses. I think quite a few, right? New coming in, 8, probably 10, perhaps. What do we have regarding infrastructure to handle all of this traffic besides traffic lights, especially since we have a railroad right at the end at Highway 85, which is probably where many of them will be headed. Many of the trucks will be headed.
So these developments pay a traffic or a transportation impact fee. And so that comes in for dealing with impacts of the development. In addition, there is a public improvement agreement that would address some of the additional direct impacts. Mr. Rogers, do you have anything added that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Roger. Thank you. I was actually going to ask Jennifer if she could walk through what has been concluded by Public Works. And obviously, this portion of 104th is owned by CDOT, what they've outlined for public improvements tied to the development of the site.
Sure, there's a small dedication of 104th to CDOT for some additional right-of-way, and there are improvements on Joliet, as well as drainage improvements for the entire area. That is a quick summary of the public improvements. Obviously, a traffic study was included or is currently included in the development plan under review, and Public Works and the applicant have worked through all requirements that Public Works has asked for. Those have all been agreed to at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And I am looking for a motion. Councilmember Noble. Board Member Grimes.
Move to approve the inclusion NIGID -178-21.
So your motion is to introduce ordinance NIGID 178-21 by the board as seated and approve on first reading.
That's correct.
Board Member Madera.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance NIGID 178-21 by the board as seated and approve on first reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. I just want to make a couple comments. One, the action that we are taking tonight is not approving any zoning. We are not approving this as an industrial property. We are not approving the construction of anything. We are not approving any zoning changes, anything like that. The only thing that we are doing this evening is including this piece of property within the boundaries of the Northern Infrastructure General Improvement District. If this project is going to go forward, it makes sense to approve it into the NIGID, because that way the NIGID can continue to generate revenue off of this new development that is going to take place. My question regarding valuation, if it's on the low end of $37 million, that results in an annual payment over $214,000 to the NIGID off of this industrial property here. So not including it into the NIGID doesn't mean the property is not going to be developed. It doesn't mean that it's not going to take place. This project is not going to take place. What it means is that project takes place without the additional revenue for the NIGID, and that additional revenue does not come in order to help pay down those bonds faster and help us make future decisions with NIGID money. So therefore, I'm in support of the inclusion of this into the NIGID. Again, this is not an approval of the project. It is not approval of zoning. It is not approval of anything other than the property within the boundaries of this confine will now be part of the NIGID and start paying taxes at a 29% assessment rate at a mill levy of 20, which is the current mill levy for the NIGID, resulting in over $214,000 a year to that general improvement district. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will do I'll need the secretary to read the title and take a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair Huseman. Ordinance NIGID 178-21, an ordinance including certain lands described generally as the northeast corner of East 104th Avenue and Joliet Street into the City of Commerce City Northern Infrastructure General Improvement District at the request of 104 Commerce Park 1 LLC. Board Member Madera.
Yes.
Board Member Allen Thomas.
Yes.
Board Member Noble.
Yes.
Board Member Guardiola.
Yes.
Board Member Hurst.
Yes.
Board Member Grimes.
Yes.
Board Member Smith.
Yes.
Vice Chair Frank.
Yes.
Chair Huseman.
Yes.
Passes unanimously 9-0.
Thank you very much. That concludes our business this evening. I do want to say one thing before we leave. Congratulations, Mr. Rogers, on being the new deputy city manager. And also would like to congratulate Kathy Blakeman on no longer being our interim city manager and being our city manager, deputy city manager as well. You both have done phenomenal things for the city. I look forward to your continued work and dedication to improving Commerce City as we move forward. So thank you very much and congratulations on that. That's all we have this evening. We'll see you next week for a study session. Until then, have a good evening. Have a good week. Good night, Commerce City.
Thank you.